Shocking affairs, open secrets, and the mother of all illegal payoffs. Nothing damages a politician's reputation quite like a romantic indiscretion. Few affairs in political history are as legendary as the one that reportedly took place between John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. According to biographer J. Randy Taraborelli's book Jackie, the president and the iconic actor had a weekend-long fling in March 1962, mere months before Monroe died. Senator George Smathers later recalled, "He thought she was beautiful, but maybe not the smartest girl in the world. He liked her sense of humor and her playfulness."
Oh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
The whole world got a glimpse of that playfulness a few months after their reported weekend together, when Monroe performed a sultry version of Happy Birthday, Mr. President in a now iconic sheer, crystal-studded gown that left very little to the imagination. JFK isn't the only Kennedy brother rumored to have had a fling with the blonde bombshell, either. It seems that Robert F. Kennedy, too, had an affair with Monroe. According to pollster Lou Harris, Monroe pursued Bobby at his brother's infamous birthday party. He claimed she literally pinned him against the wall, and she had him trapped. While speculation about what went down has swirled for decades, a letter from Gene Kennedy to Marilyn Monroe went up for auction in 2016, appearing to confirm the rumors. Gene wrote, "Understand that you and Bobby are the new item. We all think you should come with him when he comes back east." Gary Hart was considered the front-runner for the Democratic nomination for president in 1988, but he never made it to election year. Hart had a reputation as a womanizer, thanks at least in part to the New York Post, which manufactured a quote from the candidate and put him on the front page under the headline, "Gary, I'm no womanizer." Hart told the New York Times, "Follow me around, I don't care. I'm serious. If anybody wants to put a tail on me, go ahead. They'd be very bored." That article hadn't even been published when journalists decided to do just that, tipped off by a caller that Hart was having an affair with a woman named Donna Rice. Sure enough, when a team of reporters staked out Hart's D.C. home, they witnessed Rice entering on a Friday and not leaving until Saturday. When they published their story, they blew the race wide open.
Have you ever committed adultery?
I do not know. I'm not going into a theological definition of what constitutes adultery.
Hart's campaign manager, William Dixon, denied the affair in a statement to the Washington Post. He said, "It's character assassination. It's harassment. He's offended and he's outraged. He's furious. He's a victim." The National Enquirer then published a photo of Rice sitting on Hart's lap during a weekend they spent on a yacht called Monkey Business. Though Rice and Hart continued to deny the affair, Hart's campaign was over. In 1992, as President George H.W. Bush was running for re-election, he was confronted by rumors that he'd had an extramarital affair with an aide named Jennifer Fitzgerald. A CNN reporter confronted Bush with the rumors at a press conference. He called the whole thing a lie. Later, he appeared on Dateline NBC, where he was once again asked about whether he'd had an ongoing fling with someone who used to work for him. You're perpetuating this sleaze by even asking the question, to say nothing of asking in the Oval Office. Hillary Clinton mentioned the affair in a 1992 Vanity Fair interview, recalling a conversation with an heiress named Anne Cox Chambers. Chambers allegedly told Clinton that everyone knows about George Bush, pointing out that the media had mostly avoided investigating the rumored dalliance. According to J. Randy Taraborelli's book Grace and Steel, the president's mother insisted that Clinton's interview was the reason her son lost re-election, calling the scandal all Hillary's fault. Former First Lady Barbara Bush later admitted she had suicidal thoughts after learning about the supposed affair. In the book The Matriarch, Barbara told author Susan Page, "I felt terrible. I would pull over and park so I wouldn't go hit a tree. I almost wonder why he didn't leave me." In 2000, rumors spread that John McCain and lobbyist Vicky Eisman were having an affair after she was spotted accompanying the politician at numerous events. McCain staffers were reportedly nervous that the affair would become public and ruin his presidential campaign, so they began to limit the pair's visibility. Things reportedly got so intense that a McCain employee confronted Eisman at Union Station, warning her to stay away. In 2008, John McCain ran for president again, but his campaign was smeared by a New York Times investigation into the relationship between McCain and Eisman. In response to the allegations, McCain said, "I have never betrayed the public trust by doing anything like that." McCain eventually wound up holding a press conference where his wife, Cindy McCain, stepped up to the mic and told reporters that she had absolute faith in her husband. A few years after McCain's death in 2018, former campaign advisor Steve Schmidt claimed on his Substack that McCain had lied to the country about his affair. Schmidt wrote that he had helped discredit the New York Times article, only for McCain to tell him afterward, "Boy, I had a long relationship with her."
If you can't trust Gavin with his best friend's wife, how can you trust him with your state?
In 2007, then Mayor of San Francisco Gavin Newsom confessed to having had an affair with a staffer's wife. His re-election campaign manager Alex Torque resigned in the aftermath. The next day, Newsom admitted that he'd had a fling with Torque's wife, Ruby Rippy Torque. Newsom held a press conference about the rumors that had landed him in the media, telling reporters, "Everything you've heard and read is true, and I am deeply sorry about that." More than a decade later, Newsom was dogged again by rumors of infidelity. According to the San Joaquin Valley Sun, it was an open secret in Sacramento that the governor had engaged in multiple affairs in 2020, flouting his own lockdown rules. The outlet insisted that one of the affairs was with someone who worked in his office in a high-ranking role. One source told the newspaper, "This is spiraling into the worst-kept secret in town." That being said, it seems the secret was kept a while longer. As of 2024, no more specifics have been revealed about the rumors that were supposedly flying fast and furious through the halls of the Californian government. Al Gore often boasted about the strength of his marriage. When he was named the Democratic nominee for president at the party's national convention in 2000, Gore gave his wife, Tipper Gore, a long, passionate kiss. One voter told the Boston Globe, "Gore seems like he really loves his wife, and she loves him. It's important that the president set that tone as a family man." Though they'd been together for 4 decades, Tipper and Al divorced in 2010, and their separation opened the floodgates to years of affair rumors. Star magazine, for example, reported that the former VP had cheated on Tipper with Lori David, who had produced the documentary An Inconvenient Truth. A source told the tabloid, "Al and Lori went from friends to lovers. It couldn't be avoided." The National Enquirer, then fresh off of breaking the John Edwards sex scandal, wrote that the couple divorced because Tipper had become paranoid about Al's reported affairs, whether or not there was any truth to the rumors. One source told the outlet, "I think she's always believed there was something going on between Al and many of the women in his life. Al finally told her their relationship was over because he couldn't stand her jealous rages anymore." Back in 2010, Nikki Haley was a candidate for the governorship of South Carolina, but a blogger named Will Folks threw a grenade into the race when he wrote how he had been romantically involved with the politician. On his website, Fitz News, he simply wrote, "I had an inappropriate physical relationship with Nikki." Folks refused to elaborate, but Haley claimed that nothing had happened.
I have been absolutely faithful to my husband for 13 years.
Just 1 week later, another man claimed to have had a one-night stand with Haley. Lobbyist Larry Marchant, who worked for Haley's opponent, came forward to say they had slept together in Salt Lake City while both attending a conference in 2008. Tim Pearson, Haley's spokesman, told Politico, "This is a false and outrageous desperate attack from a losing candidate's paid campaign consultant in the final week of the race." Haley won her race, and her national profile grew so much that by the end of 2023, she was one of the only remaining candidates for the Republican nomination for the presidency. The affair rumors resurfaced on X, formerly Twitter, in 2023, when conservative activist Laura Loomer tweeted 2 affidavits from the men who'd claimed to have had affairs with Haley. Loomer wrote, "Tell me again how Nikki Haley is such a good military spouse." In 2018, Republican Kevin McCarthy was named Minority Leader of the House of Representatives. 5 years later, in 2023, he became Speaker of the House after a record 15 votes. It was the end of a long and rocky road for McCarthy. Back in October 2015, his play for the speakership had been stopped cold by allegations of an affair with another member of Congress. On October 6, 2015, Republican Walter B. Jones sent a letter to the party chairman, writing in bold and underlined text that he was asking that any candidate for Speaker of the House withdraw from the election if any embarrassing misdeeds became public. 2 days later, McCarthy campaigned for his votes, but received a threatening email from GOP donor Steve Baer, suggesting he drop out. And he did exactly that. When reporters asked if his shocking withdrawal was related to the open letter, McCarthy replied, "No, no, come on." Meanwhile, Politico reported that Republican Renee Elmers had addressed a meeting of Republican lawmakers on the morning of October 9th, thanking them for their support after nasty emails were sent around Capitol Hill. She said, "I will be praying for those who find it acceptable to bear false witness." In 2018, amid swirling rumors of a hush money payment and legal threats from then-President Donald Trump, adult performer Stormy Daniels went on 60 Minutes Australia. On the show, she claimed they'd had a fling at a golf tournament in 2006. Daniels would later go into great detail about the specifics of his anatomy in her book, Full Disclosure. Trump denied that anything had happened between the two of them. However, he confessed on X that Daniels was paid to keep her from going public during the 2016 election. He wrote, "The agreement was used to stop the false and extortionist accusations made by her about an affair." Trump's wife, Melania, stood by her husband amid the scandal.
"I know what is right and what is wrong and what is true and not true."
Whether they had an affair or not, the real trouble was that the former president appeared to have paid Daniels off with campaign funds, which is, of course, a very serious crime. Trump's criminal trial began in April 2024. Controversial Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has made a career out of her supposed family values, as well as going out of her way to demean LGBTQ+ people. She once said, "Probably in about 4 or 5 generations, no one will be straight anymore." Taylor Greene has also accused the Uvalde gunman of being transgender without evidence and tried to put an end to Pride Month celebrations. These are just a few examples of her attempts to turn back the clock on LGBTQ+ acceptance. In February 2021, the Daily Mail broke the news that Taylor Greene had allegedly been cheating on her husband with not one, but 2 different men, neither of whom denied the rumors when contacted by the outlet. Greene reportedly cheated with both Craig Ivey, who the publication described as a tantric sex guru, and Justin Tway, a gym manager. Apparently, the affairs happened right out in the open. One source told the Mail, "It wasn't a secret. Everyone who moved in her circles knew about both the affairs." By the end of the following year, the Congresswoman's marriage was over, as she'd finalized her divorce from her husband, Perry Greene. In his court papers, Perry described the marriage as irretrievably broken, following the rumored affairs.